let's get right into Thursday night football. We got the Broncos at the Chiefs. Chiefs favored by 10.5. The spread is 47.5. It's been dropping. I think it was 50 a little earlier in the week. Who do you like to have a freak performance in the captain spot?
I'm going to have to go with Jerry Jeudy here. I feel like there's a handful of options on the Chiefs side, which makes it tougher to decide on who should be the captain. But, I like Jeudy to potentially have his first big game this season. It's, going to be a potential to pass heavy trailing game script for the Broncos. I mean, they're 10.5-point dogs. And he really hasn't had a captain-worthy game yet, mainly due to not scoring a touchdown this year. But he does seem to be fully over his hamstring injury that prevented him from playing the first week. So we finally saw season high in routes run rate last week at 95%, season high in targets with 8. So I think that the big game could be coming soon. So that's why I think in this spot, I think rolling with him as the captain could be overlooked a bit. So I'm going to go with Jerry Jeudy here.
Yeah, I like Jeudy. I have him with some separation relative to Sutton in my ranks. I think Judy's, underlying metrics have been a little bit better this year. And you're right, he's just not really put it together yet because he doesn't have the touchdown. And Sutton does have quite a few touchdowns on the season. But I do think that'll start to turn around, and Jeudy will become the more valuable Bronco receiver. So I like that one. Definitely the game script for it. Speaking of game script, I'll go with Isaiah Pacheco here. He's been playing well lately. He has a touchdown in 3 straight, 17 or more touches in 3 straight. Denver, of course, 32nd dead last in run defense DVOA. I mean, wow, that was the Dolphins, but you had the long Breece Hall run last week too. Khalil Herbert and company ripped off a bunch of big runs in that Bears game. So you just have this defense getting shredded. They're also bottom 6 in DVOA on passes to running backs. Pacheco's been a little bit more involved in the pass game this year as well. So like him here, especially with Travis Kelce a little bit banged up. Mahomes doesn't have to throw for 350 plus week in, week out for this team to win now. Their defense is better. The backfield is better. So I think it makes sense to keep riding Pacheco in this spot. Who do you like for value plays?
So I'm going to go with another Broncos player here. I'm going with Marvin Mims. He's 4,600, which is pretty steep for a guy, typically just running 30% routes run rate, but he's worth every penny on a slate like this. And, last week was definitely discouraging. It looked like his playing time would start to go up. I think he had like a 38% routes run rate in week 4. And then it went back down to 29% last week, which is kind of where it's been stuck all year. He only got 1 catch for 4 yards. But I think that's just a good time to buy low. Like he's going to be the ultimate boom bust player since he sees most of his targets downfield, doesn't see a ton of playing time. And that's why I said, he was one of my favorite best ball specific wide receivers to target late in drafts, because that's just who he is. Like he's going to be a downfield threat. So this is the time to really lean in on him. Like I said, this should be a pass heavy trailing game script. So he's the kind of guy that doesn't need that many targets or catches to do some damage, especially on a single game slate. So I'll have a ton of Marvin Mims. I kind of like that he's priced up a bit. Maybe it's going to shy people away from him. I if he was 2K or something, I might consider fading him. But at 4,600, I think that's a good sweet spot. Has massive upside, wide range of outcomes, but that's why I love him for the single game slate here.
Yeah, and he's probably he returns kicks as well, so another way
right
for him to potentially get into the end zone. I like Justin Watson. He's only 2,200 on DK, and this is a guy who on the season he's averaging a 52% route participation rate. Over the last 3 games, and we've seen the Chiefs' snap rates at wide receiver kind of jump around, and we've talked about this. This is a team that's just not going to have a guy play more than like 2/3 of the snaps at wide receiver. They're going to mix the 6 guys in, and it's going to change from week to week depending on the game plan. But Watson has been fairly consistent. Him and MVS probably the 2 most consistent in terms of their snap rates, and he has the second highest over the last 3 weeks in terms of his route participation rate, and he's the cheapest of their top 5 receivers. So, like Justin Watson here, he has averaged 20 or more yards per catch in 4 of his 5 games. He's got at least 45 yards in 4 of his 5 games. Just hasn't gotten into the end zone yet, but he's getting deep targets, so he could easily break free for a long touchdown, especially with Mahomes throwing him the football. And against this defense, he is tied for 9th in the NFL with 9 targets that have traveled at least 20 yards beyond the line of scrimmage in the air. So top 10 in deep targets. Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback, running more routes than most of the other Chiefs receivers. Sign me up for Watson. And on the Broncos side, Adam Troutman, he caught a touchdown last week, and he's been running a route on 84% of the dropbacks over the last 3 games. Greg Dulcich is still on the injured reserve. Kansas City is also 23rd in DVOA against tight ends. It's one of the few positions they're kind of a little bit weaker towards. They do have, their cornerbacks are playing well. So this could be another game where Troutman catches some balls, especially if Broncos get in a trailing game script. They may have to dump it off some to him. But Troutman at 2,800, Watson at 2,200 on DK. I think both of those guys are pretty good values.
Yeah, Troutman's been fun projecting the past few weeks. Like,
right.
He was 80-90% routes run rate, wouldn't catch a ball. And then I'm like, what the hell do I do with this guy? And then last week he finally goes off. But also, like Justin Watson, he's who we thought MVS would be in this offense.
Right.
Where MVS, he's like 1 and 2 catches for 20 yards a game. But Watson's like, 2 catches for 60 yards. He's like really turning into that guy that we thought MVS is going to be. So, yeah, absolutely a great play for a single game slate. And anytime, the Chiefs are playing, because they have this rotation. And like you said, it's really Watson and MVS are the more stable guys. And he's consistently seeing those downfield targets. So out of those 2, it's really Justin Watson's the guy we should be targeting.
Absolutely. Who do you like for dart throws?
So I got to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. Obviously, I like your Pacheco call for the captain slot. This is just a fantastic matchup for running backs in general. But Kansas City should easily win this game. They're probably going to lean on the run a ton, especially if Kelsey's banged up. No reason to have Mahomes throwing it 35 plus times. So we could just see a run heavy game plan. And it would likely be Edwards-Helaire that would really see the extra work as opposed to Jerick McKinnon. So, and it's a short week. So they just probably want to limit Isaiah Pacheco since he's such a valuable piece of this offense now. So I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire should see more work this week, especially in the second half. So I love him as a dart throw here.
He's averaging 6.5 touches on the season, but in the Chiefs' 1 blowout win, 41-10 over the Chicago Bears a few weeks ago, he had 16 touches. So
yeah.
I think that is in the range of outcomes here for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And this has been a very bad run defense as we've talked about. So I love him as well. For me, I'm going Brandon Johnson. He's 1,200 on DK, and he's the guy, unfortunately, that's been taking time away from Marvin Mims. I guess he's a better blocker, but he's also got 3 touchdowns on the air. One of them was that Hail Mary, but he's got 4 touchdowns on 14 career catches. So, and he has been targeted in the red zone a couple of times. So, there is a chance. And now he's running a route close to 60% of the time. It really has all season, 55% for the season. Last week, it was up to 61%, which was a season high. So, he's going to be on the field over half the snaps. Could be a blowout. Could just need chunk plays late. So a lot of ways for Johnson to hit. I don't think he should be playing this many snaps over Mims, but what do I know?
Right. When it comes to just these single game slates, like so much of his game theory, you've said that about these before. It's like you're telling a story of the game. When it comes to the Chiefs running backs specifically, how do you think you'll handle that where Are you using Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the same lineups where you have Pacheco, like
Yeah,
Pacheco in the captain slot, where you have Pacheco in the captain slot, and then you still have Edwards-Helaire in the flex, right?
absolutely. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind even throwing McKinnon in there. I mean, they've talked about this. They like
Oh,
to get all
damn.
three of them in the end zone to the trifecta.
Yeah.
So like that's something they aim for. And at least two. We've seen it with the Dolphins backs. This is a very bad run defense. So yeah,
Right.
I could see Pacheco could put him ahead early with a couple of scores, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire could finish it off late. If they're leading big. So yeah, I have no problems putting multiple running backs, and that gets you. You could go a little bit more contrarian because there's going to be so many Mahomes to Kelsey stacks. You could
Yeah.
fade one or both of those guys.
Right.
If you think the Chiefs running game is going to play, which I do. So that's the way you kind of go game theory. Mahomes could have another game where it's like 280, 270, maybe one touchdown. That it's not going to. It might not be a massive blow up spot if the Chiefs are able to get it going on the ground. So love the game theory of having at least two Chiefs running backs.
Well, I think you just said the big brain play. Play all three.
Yeah,
Screw it.
no, yeah, because like McKinnon, he's gonna get like 2 touches, 2 touchdowns. Like that's the Jared McKinnon.
Couple catches, maybe a goal line score.
Yeah.
They all three could be in the winning lineup. So might have one of those lineups out there.
Yeah, I mean, once I heard them say that, like it's something they actively aim for, that kind of especially on a slate like this, like I think you definitely want to target that.